Kumar, now we are good to go and we are live now. Shall we start? Shall we start? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. We have a global audience joining us today for this panel discussion. My name is Vijay Bhandari. I'm a Chief Operating Officer of Noesis Capital. Noesis Capital is Thank you.
Hi everyone.
Our third panelist is Devinder Kumar. His Assistant Vice President, Revenue Management and Distribution for Lemon Tree Hotels.
Hi everyone.
Fourth panelist is Mr. Ghosh, Regional Vice President, India and Subcontinent TravelClick.
Hi, hello everyone.
Our fifth panelist is Mr. Kamesh, Shukla, Executive Vice President, Asia Pacific, Middle East and Africa for RedSky.
Hi everyone.
Our sixth panelist is Mr. Ravish, Swarup, Chief Executive Officer for OneFineRate.com and Praxis Services Private Limited.
Hello everyone.
And our seventh panelist is Mr. Parikshit Choudhury, Chief Business Officer, Makemytrip.
Hi guys.
Our moderator for this session is Mr. Kumar Subramanian, founder and CEO of Revopt Global Private Limited.
Hi everyone.
So before we start this panel discussion, I would request the audience to pose the question in Q&A section. After the panel discussion, we'll start with the Q&A round. So Kumar, over to you. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Vijay, and a warm welcome to all the panelists and the audience this evening. As hospitality is expected to rebound from an unprecedented bound, government regulations vary region to region, even city to city as to when and how lockdowns are being lifted and made less restrictive. Hence, demand and customer behavior is severely impacted by these regulations. How each one of us individually reacting to it and how different businesses takes different approaches makes it even more difficult for hotels to predict the future. In terms of demand, we are starting from the scratch. So it's understandable that many hotels are desperate to capture whatever demand they can find and however they can find it. There's no doubt there's a lot of temptation there to fill rooms with any available demand. But one thing is for sure, there is certainly uncertainty. Uncertainty around the recovery pace, uncertainty around the type of business that will come back first, uncertainty around how much market share you can gain. So with all this, let's see where does revenue management stand, and of course there is always been a lot of reluctance when it comes to the profile of this function, especially. And many still believe a hotel can be operated successfully with a limited revenue management or without revenue management. So firstly, I would like to clear the air for our revenue folks out there. So to start with our very first question, with Devinder, yourself. So in an environment where there is absolutely no demand to capture now, or if any, pretty marginal and insignificant, is it questionable whether the revenue management role becomes obsolete or could be a merger with other functions? Let's start with that. A quick start with that, and then we'll move on to the other part.
Sure. Thanks, Subramanian. So the revenue management, if you see, has been very critical kind of a support to the entire revenue stream. If you see when in the normal scenario, whenever there is an H2, for example, November onwards to March, you see high demand and you align your pricing to drive max ARRs. But when you enter H1, when there is little demand or demand is less than the supply, you still have revenue management sitting there, capturing your market share, getting whatever business can be converted. So this is the same way in the COVID situation which we are thinking. It's a kind of a wave. It's one of the season which is coming into play. Although the segmentation has reduced with respect to the corporate traveler, your mice and all, but still you have a segment which is coming in quarantine business, BCP business, staycations, workations. Those kind of segments still exist, and you have to ensure that you get the right segment at the right price with the right distribution channel. So you have to be. It is very challenging. Yes, the demand is limited nowadays. For me, revenue management can never be obsolete if the demand exists, whether it's limited or on a higher side. You still have to earn some revenue for the company. You have to still analyze your data, what kind of segment you are still catering to, where you can get additional demand. You still get engaged more of the OTA partners to drive retail demands. You get still engaged with your sales partners to how to convert leads, what kind of pricing we can float, what kind of package promotions you can make live. So there is always one of the guy has to sit there in the office or at the back office to understand the pace, how it is going on. Although it's very sporadic. Earlier we used to have like 2019 when you have a lot of revenue management solution, you have pattern of transient demand and a little bit of group demand. You still got able to do forecasting. Now the forecasting has very become sporadic. You have to place a
We'll get
forecast.
there in a moment on forecasting, Devinder. Thank you very much. Ram, would you like to add your comment on this? Does revenue management becomes obsolete, or does it have an opportunity to get merged with the other functions?
Thanks, Kumar. I think this is one question a lot of people have been asking nowadays. Are revenue managers required? I think the reason for this question is primarily because I think we still as an industry don't know what a revenue manager does. In many cases, a revenue manager is like a channel manager who just manages channels and does nothing else, or a report manager because all they do is sit there at the back end and generate data and charts for people. I think this revenue manager is definitely a lot more than this, and it's green shoots which you're going to see pretty soon. And you need someone out there looking at it. The next important thing out there is this is a time where the hotel needs to be available on all distribution platforms. I'm not talking GDS, I'm not talking website. There is a whole lot of connected platform out there, and I can see my friend Kamesh smiling out there because I'm sure he's going to talk about that out there. But there is a whole bunch of distribution platforms that the hotel needs to be present on and selling the same pricing. I mean, who's going to do that? You need a qualified person doing it out there. The last thing is the revenue manager definitely is not what it was in the pre-COVID era.
Yeah, that's the next point. Actually, I'm getting there. But the real challenge now is with absolutely no demand. What does actually a revenue manager do at this point in time? I mean, what additional responsibilities probably he could look up?
So one thing I definitely am advising the revenue managers in our hotels is, what, this is like a time which I'm hoping that they never get in the future, because this is the time where they need to go and review the content, refresh the content. I don't know when was the last time they actually were selling rooms. In all cases, if you go and look at the way that a hotel room has been sold, it's been 45 square meters with a large work desk. That's not what the client of today is going to be looking at. So this is the time where the revenue manager needs to be reviewing and refreshing content across all platforms. The revenue manager today needs to actually be wearing multiple hats, including that of an asset optimizer. I'm not going to be talking about asset management. But what I mean by asset optimizer is different hotels has different areas which they could be looking at making revenue from. And he or she needs to be the person that is holding the revenue culture of the hotel in order to ensure that the revenues of the hotels are objective. I mean, the best way to put it for me is the revenue manager needs to be like a lever right now. When you have to lift something heavy, you use a lever to push it up, right? And that should be the function that a revenue manager needs to be doing.
Thank you, Ram. Ravish, would you like to add your comment, please? You need to unmute your mic.
As a practicing revenue manager, there is no doubt that our core is not there. So in terms of what used to engage, our time that used to be completely engaged in a very particular buoyant times when pricing decisions used to really take away most of our time. I think some of the things where all of us need to engage, which is what a global revenue manager, and I don't think so India has ever started to look at. For example, airline pricing. okay, which is as a combination of hotel rate. Now, even if tomorrow the hotels were to open and come out with a pricing, which let's say for a Goa hotel, and you can get a steal at a Goa hotel. But at the same time, the moment state control air pricing goes away, and the air tickets are really, really expensive. So does one even think that, whether the hotels would go back to occupancy, even if the price is one that is friendly? So one has to today start looking at an outlook, while it may be a controlled air ticket cost right now. But how prepared are you're looking at all those things? And what is the possibility of a cross collaboration today with airlines? Revenue managers have never looked at all those things, ever. Even though global revenue managers, global leisure locations, Hawaii, for example, as a destination would always factor both the airline and the hotel pricing. So those are the things that today when we talk that leisure is going to find a focus, city hotels are going to be challenging. And even if the company has to gain money through leisure locations, what is it and how is it that you would make the stride and gain more?
Sure. Thanks, Ravish. But we, as Ram pointed out, that was my next question to the panelists here. We still have a vast number of revenue professionals operating pretty comfortably in their silo with of course, clearly defined boundaries related to the roles and responsibilities, more of towards distribution, I would say, or channel management, as Ram pointed out. But, the industry demand was pretty strong. Life was good. The going was good. Everything is fine. But however, in a post-COVID-19 world, this approach is no longer going to work. So what is exactly the specific role? I'm coming back to the same point. What is the exact specific role of a revenue manager post-COVID-19, and how critical is it today, when especially demand is yet to start, when hotels are expecting to rebound from this pandemic? Devinder?
Yeah, thank you. So post-COVID situations, everybody is looking at the V-shaped recovery, and we have to be prepared accordingly. So yes, for example, the booking pace is shrunk down because supply is more than the demand. It's definitely, and times to come when airlines open, global airlines open, get operational, you will find the pricing again going, dynamic pricing happening in the airline structure, and again the pre-booking, advanced booking will start. So you have to understand those trends in order to get the demand capitalized in the basically at the right price at that time. You have to open again advanced purchases offer to cater to that demand. So again, those segments, corporate, FIT, MIS will kick in, travel agent will kick in. So you have to be prepared. So how will you get prepared? You need to understand the data which is coming to you currently. Whenever you start seeing the data, you will observe there is some change is happening, and there is a weekend trend behavior is changing because of some demand which is kicking in. So revenue manager has to understand all the data points, and he has to be with the optimum pricing throughout 365 days.
Thank you, Devinder. So let's move to Ravish quickly. When you talk about data, what's the quality of data that you see today, which is actually helping these revenue managers to make some informed decisions? I mean, how clean is this data? What's the interpretation of the data? What are the different sets of data that you look at?
So, so I work with many hotel companies across. So India's revenue management quality operations ranges from, in terms of mediocre to, some that are very, very compelling demonstration. There are hotel companies which rely on data and analytics and make extremely informed choices. However, there are islands of excellence. There isn't something, India really is. And therefore, I find your question to be opportune as to there are things that a typical revenue manager hitherto has not looked at and has not focused at bringing his role to the level of professionalism that what a global revenue manager typically stands for. Just being an expert on Excel sheets and creating your VSV lookups and pivots is just not what a revenue manager is. Just also doing a role of a reservation does not qualify you to become a revenue manager. I think today, when the days will be extremely challenging, what is it that you're doing in terms of business development? What is your pursuit? So it's just not saying that, when the days were good, that you were refusing business and saying that, listen, there is a better business to be taken for the future. Things are going to just go completely awry. And therefore, how is it and what is it that you're doing in terms of studying your market? I think this, for the next 6 months' time, is an outstanding opportunity for us to just study the buyer behavior, the buying behavior, understand our market, understand the feeder point. The whole segment is completely, groups have gone away. There is going to be no bulk purchases. People are going to be looking at your position to say, listen, how are you going to replace this business? And therefore, you are going to be under tremendous stress and pressure. So, and those are the things that I really think that, and these are the things that are coming in from data and analytics. And one other point that I just wish to as my parting point here, I think any brand, so when I looked, I used to work in a hotel. We as hoteliers are only aware of the people who come and stay at the hotel. Okay. So if you today say that what's your conversion factor, and you say my conversion factor is at 20-25%. So the next question is that what's happening to your other 70-75% of the people who are calling or writing to you? Why are they not converting? Regrettably, no hotel company does any measure of the brand call. So you don't know what is your demand factor. While you may do, you may do your pickup and other stuff that is happening, which are statistical tool, but you never know that of the 500 people, what was my state of readiness to sell at different price points. And I think these are the things.
Ravish, sorry to interrupt you there, but is that to do with the quality of the data? Because we know that, I mean, my experience, I have seen that, hotels are currently spending hours and hours each day manually compiling reports, only to realize that the next day, it's absolute the following day, right? So again, you start the whole process all over again, and you again start, pulling out all those Excel reports, conversions, and all of that. And the next day again it becomes obsolete. So you're only busy generating reports, for the whims and fancies of whatever way you want to look at the data. But the data is actually not giving you any story, right?
Yeah.
Ram, would you like to add more to that in terms of the
Look,
data?
I mean, I think from data point of view, your data is as good as what you enter. Okay, so if you entered crap, you will get crap. Sorry to put it so bluntly out there. And there is a lot of, that's been something I think we as revenue managers have been fighting for a long time out there. But I think what is important going forward is to answer your question specifically, what kind of data should a revenue manager be looking at? Okay. Number one, I think Devinder mentioned this, that there's hardly any pickup. So, going and analyzing and turning around and saying, I have 2 rooms picked up, 3 rooms picked up, etc., is not going to be the data for you to look at. I think if I bundle my data into different buckets, some of those data that I would be looking at is going to be more of guest data source, which is going to be that, hey, who are the guests who stayed with me in the past and actually had a higher incremental spend at the hotel. This is similar to the statistics that casinos do, right? They give free rooms to the high rollers because they know that, hey, what, I'll make more revenues from them. The same way, there are people who pay lower rates but spend higher in F&B. Have you looked at those kind of data points? Another, I mean, that's just one example I'm going to use from every bucket. Otherwise, I could talk for the next 30 minutes. The next one, but that is important, is public. Unfortunately, we don't have the time, so I'm not going to spend that time away. Don't worry. But anyone who wants to talk, I'm available for a one-on-one out there. The next one is, of course, public reputation, which is your online reputation data. The customer is going to be looking at something specific in future. They are not, I mean, the easiest way is if you look at what airlines are doing. Airlines are no longer talking about comfortable seat, big aircrafts, or their partnerships, etc. They are talking about health and safety. They are talking about, so the idea is to understand what is the customer looking at, those kind of data points. The third thing that is important is to understand the data by channel, because ultimately discounting and filling up your hotel at a lower price is the easiest that anybody can do. Okay, so I think it is to understand the cost of sale of every area and try to see where you can maximize it, because there are going to be channels that will drive you high volumes but at lower profitability, but there are going to be channels which will drive it to you out there. The last thing is, of course, and I think this is the most critical area, especially for a hotel which is going to open up, is the data that a revenue manager can provide to the operations team, so that the operations team is able to maximize their available resources. Okay, now that is something that a lot of them haven't been looking at, and I believe that could be the fourth set of points that you can be looking at. Outside this, of course, is the regular set of data, which I think Devinder and Ravish have been mentioning about your call drop data or your conversion data, etc., etc.
Thank you, Ram. Thank you, Ram. And when we talk about the demand, as of now, the demand which is yet to start, we know that while the international borders are yet to open up, everyone is anticipating for the domestic tourism to start in the near term. But, staycations and weekend getaways are expected to be the main demand in the short term or even the medium term. So, are we designing some kind of a domestic tourism packages to lure our outbound travelers for the next 2 to 3 quarters? I would like to come to Amit, Taneja. That are you designing any special domestic tourism packages to attract the domestic market? So all eyes are on domestic market, as we all know now.
Yeah, and that's sort of rightly pointed out. Sort of these are very, very uncertain times. These
Yeah.
are not times that I think any of us have seen or even imagined before. Uh, but as I said, obviously, the recovery that we sort of see is going to be a phased recovery, right? It's not going to be a sort of suddenly floodgates will open and people will start floating to travel. I think it's going to be a very, very phased recovery, which basically means there are certain markets which will open first than the others, and then there are obviously certain type of people who would probably look at traveling uh, before. But I think, and when we kind of look at the context of India, and I can sort of give you a little bit of flavor in terms of what's been happening in UAE and the wider Middle East region, where essentially the movement within the country has been sort of been there have been far more relaxation, and generally the situations around around the virus situation is widely coming under control. So yeah, I think when we look at in the context of India, it is definitely, I think the domestic tourism will probably is likely to take will pick up faster, and I think there also you will probably see sort of before people start floating into the destination which are at a flight away, you will probably see sort of more sort of drivable distances where people, families are more comfortable, 5 to 6 hours of driving, and which will be around the sort of the metros, the Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Kolkata. So I think these are the sort of markets we will probably see sort of recovering faster, and and that's exactly sort of what we are sort of as demand generator, we are sort of looking at, okay, how do we sort of go and look at attracting these sort of the set of customers which are, and sort of use the available information profiling that we have with the customer with us, use the new data, sort of the artificial intelligence and the other sort of data techniques that we have to sort of look at in terms of how do we look at targeted users. So just to sort of give an example of that, UAE opened restriction in terms of the movement within the Emirates, and effectively sort of hotels to start opening their leisure facilities. And so then how do you sort of target your sort of domestic audience which is there in the UAE to sort of get them for a staycation, and then sort of that's something that we started about a 4 to 5 weeks back. Similar sort of that the strategies that we're working towards other markets, including India, in there. And yeah, so unfortunately, this is gonna be the new norm, and as we sort of look at, and it's a fairly evolving situation at this point of time, right? I think we all have been sort of looking at it, and we've been trying to sort of make sure that we stay nimble, and we are ready to sort of
Absolutely, that's the only way
get
to. Yeah.
our plans in case there are changes to the. But I think the other interesting thing, which obviously is very, very interesting, is that even in the international, we might see a certain bubbles of travel, which will
Mhm.
probably open up much faster than the wider sort of So, for example, within the GCC, I think will be probably people traveling from Saudi to UAE and UAE to Saudi. So these are the sort of the bubbles, I think, which are likely to open in the next 3 to 4 weeks, and so these are the sort of scenarios that we are working on, and then sort of looking at, okay, which are the sort of segment of our customers are likely to sort of undertake the travel for that, in terms of sort of making sure our communication to them is personalized, our sort of target to these customers is personalized, in terms of what they want to sort of they
Sure.
want to see in the next near to medium term. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. Quickly, we'll move on to Parikshit. Parikshit, especially with different governments, posing regulations which varies predominantly from city to city and state to state. So, how does specifically the domestic market behaves for Go MMT?
Okay, thanks, Kumar. And I think it's an interesting perspective to look at. Fundamentally, if I look at, there are three stages of this pandemic, right? First stage was when everything was shut down. So this phase was probably April and May. That is the point in time there was nothing happening, right? And then probably the current stage that we are in, Kumar, is probably where we see gradual opening up of transportation, and also gradual opening up of some bit of hotel activity as well, right? This is the second phase. And probably the third phase is going to be when you have the full scale demand coming back. That probably is a couple of quarter away, unfortunately, till the vaccine comes, or till the overall situation improves a little bit. As far as the current stage is concerned, Kumar, I think you rightly pointed out, this is the time when the governments are slightly, if I might use the word, panicky, where you would see knee-jerk reactions coming in. While overall, because of the economy being under some bit of stress globally, I think many governments have taken a call of opening up the economy, and I think India also have rightfully opened up the economy significantly. However, at state levels, there are still bubbles, right? Where you see suddenly a Karnataka number going up, and then you suddenly see the local government there, the state government there taking penal actions, right? And kind of quickly trying to do that. So such kind of uncertainty, unfortunately, will exist in this second phase that I was talking about, right? And at Makemytrip, what the essential way what we are trying to handle this situation and create demand for all our partners, whether it is hotels, airline, or any other transportation partner. I think the first phase is to create the confidence in the minds of the consumers that if you take appropriate precautions, then traveling is probably not that bad, right? So for that, it is very important to kind of create that confidence that if you wear your mask, if you're kind of using your hand sanitizers, if you're kind of doing multiple amount of things that you do as a traveler, you are safe. The second bit, on the supply side, it is important also to kind of give that comfort to the consumer that the suppliers or partners are taking adequate measures to foster that kind of confidence. So, for example, the hotel ecosystem, right? I'm sure we were, and I was hearing everyone was talking about how traditional hotel revenue management works, right? Fundamentally, I think time has come to relook at that entire spectrum of revenue management. And I think revenue managers also will play a role in creating demand, right, at this point in time. And there, I think there need to be visible markers, which are safety markers, which you want to communicate at your marketing channel. For example, are your front office using Arogya Setu app, which can be shown that it's green whenever the user comes in? Very, very crude example, but you create visible markers and then translate that on the mouth of the funnel, and that kind of creates a lot of confidence in traveling. As far as sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
As far as states are concerned, right, in Makemytrip also we have tried to get in the travel restrictions called out upfront. There is something called as E-Pass, which is available now for traveling in certain markets, and we have tried to help the traveler to kind of come to the site and apply for an E-Pass and then travel. So there are multiple things that we are doing on the OTA front to kind of ensure that there is ample demand. Unfortunately, some bit of uncertainty will remain, but it's how do we kind of take that on the stride and move forward, and then communicate a positive vibe to the end consumers using technology probably would be a very, very key enabler to get demand back.
Thank you for that, Parikshit. So especially when you talk about a revenue manager's role here, it's more to do at a micro level. I guess so. There are many indications hotels need to become more micro market and micro segment focused with an agile approach at this stage. And so the more you can learn about your potential customers and be better prepared, you'll be able to service their needs. So we expect a drastic change in our customer behavior too. So does this mean actually you need to look at restructuring the market segment wrong, right? You get what I'm saying, Ram? So is there a need to look at restructuring the market segmentation for the hotel, looking at a bit more micro level, micro segment level,
Look, I don't
and
think.
micro market level? Yeah.
Thanks. So I think, I mean, if you ask me in a short term, do you want to relook at your revenue management market segment? No, I don't think so, because I'm assuming that a lot of hotels have their market segments in terms of both. I mean, the market segment is not just on rate cats or on your kind of customers. It's also down geo, etc. So I'm assuming that the hotel has an ideal hotel has these things in place, because that is like the basics or the foundations or the fundamentals of revenue management, right? To have kind of the right market segments out there. Now, as far as things go forward, if you ask me, do we need to have a separate market segment to handle this? No, I don't think so, because at the end of the day, what is going to be traveling is going to be the domestic traveler, as we are talking, is going to be a leisure transient traveler. So I'm assuming that a transient segment in your hotel is set up into corporate and leisure, so that you are easily able to identify it. I think what is more important out here is the revenue managers kind of identifying which is the segment that is traveling and pricing themselves accordingly. Even now when I go and look at some of the hotel websites, I see things like business traveler offers sitting out there. Hey, we know for a fact it's business travel is not happening at this point of time. Do you want to have a business traveler offer sitting out there, or do you want to have an offer that purely targets the staycation traveler out there? So I think what is very important is more than creating market segments for the sake of reporting purposes. I think it's important to have pricing based on the right travel that is happening out there. And I think this is definitely there is micro segments you need to be looking at, be it local staycation travelers or drive-through travelers. There is definitely something else that is going to be attracting them. And I made this statement in one of the previous webinars as well. They are not going to be coming and staying for four walls and a ceiling. We have all been stuck in that four walls and a ceiling for the past so many months. So I think it's experience that's going to be driving it more.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ram. Ravish, would you like to add more comment on that in terms of looking at micro segments?
I completely subscribe to what Ram is saying. I don't think so that in the short term, while we will discover, depending on what is the kind of demand, I don't think so that there is a shakeout that's necessary in terms of segments. That is, I think everything will come back to the way it was, and we will forget everything in maybe about 2.5 to 3 years' time. And that time, everything, whether it is from a bulk to, so one is talking about horizon as to how we prepare ourselves for the next 2 years, 2.5 years. So, nothing really. I mean, yeah, of course, each hotel will stereotype and develop things but I think as a general industry trend, I'm not sure if industry is going that way.
So, thank you, Ravish, for that. So there's another way to look at it is, are there any different options today for travelers? So let's say, for example, when we talk about especially staycations and weekend getaways, what do you feel, Parikshit? Will the travelers be more focused towards staying in an hotel or Airbnb kind of accommodation facilities that are available to destinations which are more specifically accessible within 2 to 4 or 3 hours, 4 hours of drive? So, have you seen any kind of shakers and movers on that?
Hey Kumar, let me tell you, if I speak to 10 people around me on telephone today and ask them, are you willing to travel? 9 of them are saying, yes, I am, with appropriate precautions. I think all of us have been kind of on the receiving end as far as staying at home and looking at this screen and talking to people, and we all
Absolutely.
miss the human touch, right? So
Right.
the pent up demand, I think, is huge. I think the gap is going to be the confidence, right? So
Right.
I think one of the panelists made this point, and I just can't recollect who made it, but I think the time has come to probably do some changes with respect to the way you target. Many of the hotels would probably be targeting outbound customers, right, or significant customers from the leisure segment. Now, it's important to relook at that segmentation and try and see how you can approach the micro or the semi-local markets. So maybe 200, 300 kilometers of a radius, and then you try and go overboard in targeting these kind of customers. Also, it would be important to look at niche demands that might come up. So I was talking to one of my hotelier friends the other day, and he was saying, you know what, I have a hotel in Goa, and I'm trying to target a set of these work from home guys who are actually at Bangalore, who want to drive down to Goa and spend maybe 15 days working from my hotel. And I'm trying to target it. And he shared a couple of flyers with me, which were beautifully done. It said, you know, you get a safe workstation, you get a Wi-Fi access, you get beverages, and it's like nicely packaged. So what I'm trying to say here is, Kumar, that these are unprecedented times. Latent demand is significantly there. It's all about, you know, smartly looking at that demand and then trying to figure out your innovative ways to kind of get some market share back. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this is going to get you to 60-70% occupancy. What I'm only trying to say is that this is going to push the needle up gradually. Staycations, work from home options. So these are probably areas where we need to actually look at, and then very gradually. These are frustrating times, but if we don't take these steps, then we will not make that micro progression that we are all looking forward to as far as the overall demand is concerned.
Thank you, Parikshit. Amit, your quick comment on that.
Yeah, I think it's in the short to medium term, and also sort of I think COVID is going to change in terms of how sort of corporates or generally the travel is or the sort of how your definition of work in there, and but yeah, one thing is for sure, I think the demand and the need for travel is not going to go away. It's just that in terms of how people travel, what's the preferences for people to travel, and it's going to be like, I think COVID is going to be, due to the travel industry, what probably 9/11 did to the security, right?
Right.
Essentially, and about close to 19-20 years away from that, and today we don't mind the security checks at the airport, right? Whereas those us who sort of also used to travel pre 9/11, that was a big change, right? Everybody had to sort of factor in about half an hour of body searches and all that, and today it's become a normal. Yeah, so I think but in the short to medium term, yes, the safety becomes very, very important when anybody is looking to travel, whether it's for leisure, whether it's for work, whether it's single travelers, or whether traveling with families. So I think that's where I think the bigger brands have a slight edge over I would call the independent hotels or the sort of the Airbnb, just in terms of the predictability of the experience. And also, I think this is also a time for hotels to sort of step up and sort of start communicating more proactively with their customers in terms of what are the safety protocols they're using, just to get the reassurances to the customer. I think that's where I think the hotels can learn a lot from the airlines. And today, you sort of you go into every airline is talking about how sort of they are getting ready, or what are the, and all those sort of planes which are flying, how they are making sure that the health and safety is of paramount in there. So I think that's sort of that'll be a big sort of not only a sort of assurance to people, and also it becomes a fairly important measure to sort of attract businesses towards you. So I think that's where I think the bigger brand and the hotels which sort of does a very good job in communicating to the customers and actually following that will have a big advantage in there. I would also like to sort of comment in terms of, we were talking about previously about the segmentation. I think what is going to do is definitely, your traditional, way of looking and segmenting that business is going to change forever. And the reason for this is, I think one of the, COVID will become a landmark for a couple of events, and I'll sort of, throw a couple of data points for people. I mean, we all are very, very comfortable with online shopping, but in case if we kind of look at the certain data, and which is coming out from North America, in terms of the overall retail, it took about close to 20 years of the e-commerce players being around for the total US retail to notch up to about 14 to 15% of the online share. In the last 4 months, it has actually doubled. Now, this is not going to reverse back to when things come back to normal, and obviously people talk about the new normal, whether we call that a new normal, whether we call it in terms of how life used to be pre-COVID. It's not going to come back. And then when you sort of look at every year that the new consumers that we have every year who sort of come in, sort of start into the earning cycle, this is fundamentally going to change, and this is also fundamentally going to change in terms of how employers used to sort of look at their workspace, right? And all of us in the last 5 months have learned to work from home, right? Which I don't think so. Anybody could have imagined 5 years.
That's a big cultural change.
Yeah. Do I really need an office? And also the other thing is, something which where, the face-to-face meetings were considered to be very, very integral part of doing business. Essentially, we all realize that probably, 60-70% of that work could be done, using these virtual platforms. And there might not be very, very effective at the first go, but hey, we are at a stage where we are adapting to that. But if there's somebody like who's into the first couple of months into travel, that becomes like a like this is how normally the things are being done. So I think that's sort of looking at that, but that definitely will mean that the reason for traveling will change, but people will still continue to travel. So that means as a accommodation service provider, we'll have to make sure that how we are tailoring and adapting our product to the needs for these customers, right? And I think the brands and the service providers who are able to do that far more effectively than the others will be the ones who will come out much stronger post the pandemic.
Thank you, Amit. So one thing is very clear that obviously life is not the same in many ways for all of us. So with all this uncertainty, how does one predict what's going to happen in the let's say in the coming quarters? With all this uncertainty, how do hotels forecast when forecast looks almost impossible? Historical data of 2019 becomes a bit of an irrelevant. There is no revenue coming in. There is no demand picking off in the near future. So forecast could possibly be the biggest nightmare of all the revenue models. So how does the pandemic impact the demand forecast for hotels, and what valuable information hotels must gather in order to tweak and adjust their forecasting variables, and how technology can help on this? I think before Joy loses his patience, I'll quickly go to him. Joy, you'd like to give me a comment on this?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah.
Well, that's a very interesting question, because this virus does not spare anyone, whether it is virologists, epidemiologists, mathematical models, statisticians. All forecasts have been proven wrong with alarming regularity. So whoever said it will be 50,000, it has been 5,000. So I will not venture into forecasting, because that's one of the primary jobs of a revenue manager, right? And in this pandemic situation, to do a forecast and be proven wrong, I think nothing could be sadder than that. But I would like to first venture on what kind of data set, and Ram did mention about data. So point is, what kind of data are you looking at? Just comparing your own data with your own data and coming up with any sort of forecast or any sort of actionable plan, I think is a little naive, because you need to be very aware of what is your competition doing, and am I looking at their pages as well. So at least as a technology provider and end-to-end business intelligence provider, we're seeing a lot of our hotel partners are looking at forward-looking data at both market segment level and channel level, and data that has been paired the same level of market segment for your comparative standpoint, and so that you're looking apples to apples and comparing. I'll give you an example. I was speaking to a hotelier in Maldives, and I'm giving an example of a market that is open. And there's no point talking about India where borders are closed. They are actually ready, and they are all set to market their products in China, and just waiting for Chinese airlines to announce their commercial plans, commercial schedule on this. And being a GDS, we also have data on that front. So we are helping our partners to identify the right set of data, and most importantly, forward-looking data, which is granular, which can be dissected by segment and by channel, and where you can see whether which segments are moving in the times to come and which channels are the most profitable, whether it is my brand, whether it is direct business, or whether it is my OTA partners. And data will always present a story. Just touching on your question, what will revenue managers do? They are always looking on the horizon with right kind of data, and working with sales and marketing colleagues to come up with price points, to come up with promotions, and to say that, yeah, this is what we can do. And another point on technology is that at this point in particular, it's very important to know that probably retention, even for city hotels, is a better bet than going and acquiring new hotels. And this is in particular for independent hotels than brand hotels. Brand hotels already have those technologies with them. But for an independent hotel, if I have to target, let's say in 15th August weekend, somebody at 100-kilometer distance who has stayed with me in the past, and let's say has spent between 10 to 15,000 a night, and let's say has spent through American Express as a credit card, and let me reach out to him. A lot of independent hotels are not in a situation to pull out that data and reach out to those people. So this is where I think technology has to be smartly, and how safe is your hotel, and what exactly is on offer, and what they can do, etc., etc. So I think these are some common use of technology that at least I have seen.
Sure. Thank you, Joy. Kamesh, how does your products contribute to these different kind of data sets that helps the revenue managers to look as a forward-looking data? Do you provide any forward-looking data?
Yes, in fact, these times have been as tough for technology as it's been for our customers. And also understanding, I think, the micro segments that have emerged during these times. So typically segments were just kind of labeled as leisure, business, MICE. Leisure has further gone into staycation, solo staycationer. It's gone to even drivecationer, because that's also an offspring of the leisure segment, as rightly mentioned by Amit and Parikshit. So this is something that what we thought and we've implemented is thinking about the customer, not the hotel, because the revenue managers, of course, are going to go back to the basics, rediscover a lot new ways to address that micro segment. So that doesn't just include data which is forward looking, it's also which content is being utilized and consumed by those micro personas. So somebody who's going to start domestic booking at a mobile app, the inclusions are going to be totally different. So for example, if I'm a drivecationer driving my own vehicle because I feel it's safe, I need to have a parking inclusion as well for the competitive side. So there's a lot more deeper that the data also has gone into. And we really kind of looked at the point of sales, the mobile apps and a lot many inclusions and content. Of course, it also needs to be, inviting them to be feel safe as well when they stay in a property. So whether the property is hygiene certified, that's again the topmost priority. So all of this actually is the new data for tomorrow. So historic
Thank you.
dependencies have actually moved into something that is more real time basis the market changes the moment they occur. So we launched the market drone, which actually empowers hotels the moment any changes occur on any CRS or any bookings are changing basis the market opening. There's an alert which comes, which also talks about the rate plan, the rate codes, and even promotions the competitors are running, so that it can be consumed, dependable, and action to distribution. So I think now data has gone a lot more deeper, and also now looking at the TRM approach to the data, which it used to be around 6 months back. Yeah.
Thank you, Kamesh. Going back to Ram quickly, Ram, with all this forward-looking data is yet to come or about to come to you, because as we don't see any demand in the near future. So how do you exactly forecast? Let's talk about Q3 or Q4 or even Q1 of 2021. So what's the kind of data that you use today to forecast the demand level for your time?
Well, for some reason, I expected this bullet to come to me, and I knew there was no way I was going to get this. No, I think the first thing is, I think, like Joy and Kamesh mentioned, okay, it is extremely dynamic out there. Okay, the numbers are going to vary greatly from market to market. So I definitely don't think there can be any blanket recommendations or predictions that can be made. Okay, one thing is for sure: whenever the markets open up, any market, it is going to be extremely dynamic at first, because things will open up, things will close, things will again open up, things might close again. This is something we have seen in China, we have seen in Southeast Asia and other markets, until of course a new baseline is formed. Okay, so that will happen maybe within 3 or 4 weeks of things opening up. We have seen that with our lockdowns itself in this country. But in terms of what do you do with whatever limited set of data that you have, I think the right way to actually forecast at this point of time is actually to do something like a scenario thinking forecast. Think about multiple scenarios, and this is exactly what most of the big boys like the McKinseys, BCGs of the world are doing. They aren't giving you a one single forecast; they are giving you a scenario-based forecast. So at least build it on 3 scenarios, stating if things are positive, this is what it is. If things are going to be absolutely negative, this is what it is, and this is what my middle route is. It is also important for you to kind of understand and take data relevant to the local domestic segment which stayed last year with you. What I mean to say it, if your total audience base was 100% last year, and only 20% of that was the local domestic audience, which is going to travel for the next 1 month, you need to understand that that is the set of audience you have exposed to. So any forecast that you are doing needs to be based on that particular audience. I am actually trying to discuss zero-based forecast with some of our hotels out there, which is basically that's like opening up a new hotel in a new destination.
Absolutely, that's the way to go about. If it's taking a scenario-based forecast, let's say for example, Chennai floods, right? So when Chennai floods happened, all hotels were almost shut, right? And so the only thing is the market was totally different, unlike how is it today because of COVID. So therefore, when the pace started, so how you actually tend to forecast your close range, your short range of next 30 days, 45 days, and 60 days, which becomes more relevant than, of course, looking at a long-term forecast where the seasonality will definitely play a critical role at a later stage, not to start with, right?
Yep. And of course, data monitoring is going to be very important. Like Joy mentioned, you got to closely monitor your competition. There's multiple tools. Demand 360 out there or Forward Star by STR. These are all great tools that is giving you some insights on how the market is trending, which helps you understand where you are. Also, some of our OTA friends have their own respective tools out there. But from your management portal, you are able to understand what is the business going into the competition. It's important for you to understand out there, and of course, what you pick up from any kind of promotions that you do. I think that is the way out there. I mean, there is going to be a lot of trial and error forecasting that is going to happen until there is some stability in terms of demand.
Yeah, until the demand picks up, and the sustainable demand comes into play. So,
Yeah.
having said that, so what's happening about pricing? So today, is it going to be another chase to the bottom? We see the prices going, haywire with so many offers, and almost every day it is flooded with your WhatsApp and emails. All kinds of offers coming out from all kinds of hotels. So, how does the revenue managers are coping up with this? Do you feel the pressure in slashing price? And how are you coping up with this to improve the occupancies in the short run? And by when do you think, or when do you expect the price correction to happen? I think we'll start with Devinder. Devinder, if you could just put in some comments on that.
Yeah, thank you, Kumar. So pricing is definitely an important factor for your conversion. So it is not necessary that you set a price and you get conversion. So it's a discovery. It's a elasticity which you observe how your pickup is behaving on each change of the price point. So yes, you need to also monitor your competition. Ultimately, nowadays, what we are looking at is everybody's looking at the cash flows. That's why the price war is starting up. That's why everybody's getting into offers, staycations kind of offers, because that's a business which we are thinking in a short way to come in. Yes, so that's an operation expense they have to cover up. So definitely everybody would like to get some cash flow in instantly and stabilize themselves. So the price discovery will continue working, provided your comp set is also slashing the price. So you have to be in the market. It's a game of the occupancy driven market. It's not the game of the ADR driven market. You have to drive RevPAR through occupancy route. And going forward, yeah. So going forward, we will the stabilization. We may look that Ram has already mentioned that's a scenario based forecasting has to be created. But once we have vaccination, which is we expected by end of December or say first half of next year, then definitely a stability will come. Otherwise, there will be a lot of sporadic forecasting figures, and accordingly the pricing will be aligned to drive market share. The revenue manager has to look at each day pickup, whether its price is successful or not.
Thank you. Thank you, Devinder. Ravish, would you like to add more comment?
So I did make a part statement. For me, it is important that the way we are assessing the market is in a 3-year strategy. Given that year one is going to be a complete destruction of demand, what really is important is that how we are watching what may be a destruction of demand that may follow, given that all of us are saying what may be the capability of market to hold on, especially the independents, the small chains. So while you may in a city have, in a pre-COVID days, you may have 10 or 15 hotels. I think it is important to see how many actually survive this 1 year. What is the capability of them to even survive this 1 year? And when the market open up, we may be opening up to a new reality where supply is very, very diminished. So you may have a demand that is replacing a shortened supply requirement. And therefore, it may just not be as gory as we are projecting it to be. How prepared are we? I mean, so heart goes out to the ones who will not be able to survive. Okay. And that's a reality. So that's how I'm looking at as to how to study. So this is the reason why I keep on talking about the 3-year scenario as to how the market will again, probably with the vaccination in place. In the 3rd year, may begin to look like coming back to the normalcy.
Thank you, Ravish. Sticking to more specific to pricing, uh, my point of view is that hotels must understand that they need to fish where the fish are, right? Focus on travelers who are willing to travel right now instead of trying to attract people who aren't ready because pricing is not alone going to drive the demand. So therefore, is it a chase to the bottom? Because we have seen even in the best of the days that everybody cutting down, slashing prices, and going to the bottom. So how is this pricing coming up now, when especially when you see this desperation of picking up business? How is this observed in the OTAs, especially, Amit? I'll ask this with Amit and followed by Parikshit. So, what do you see in terms of desperation of hotels pricing themselves to attract demand?
No, I think it's you rightly said these are sort of nervous time. There are no sort of something which hoteliers can fall back on. But I think, as I said, there is something that the hotels can learn from the airlines here, right? And and you rightly said that there is no point. Your pricing will help if there's a demand out there, right?
Absolutely.
At the same time, you don't want to be sort of be under the impression that everything is normal and you will be able to command the price you were able to. But I think the important thing here is to sort of look at in terms of how do you sort of attract people who are willing to travel and give them the right set of incentives, where pricing is one of the important, but it's not the only. And I think that's sort of unfortunately what we are saying in some of the markets is where effectively hoteliers have joined the race to sort of to and to be honest, today my concern is not the pricing. I'm not able to sort of we are not in that phase where pricing is going to drive demand. But having said that, I'm saying that this is not going to be the case. Maybe in a 3 to 4 or 5 or 6 months from now, where things starts to get back towards normalcy, pricing will play an important part, and hoteliers should not shy away from using that intelligence. Otherwise, what's going to happen is what Ravish was pointing out, is that some of ourselves will be rushing ourselves to our grave, right? Because just to sort of at the end of the day, there are operational expenses. These operational expenses are not going to come down. In fact, if nothing else, all this pandemic and the extra efforts in terms of maintaining the health and safety protocol, the operational expenses will go down for most of the hotels, right? So I think, this is something, as I said, the hoteliers can learn from the airlines as they've been opening up, and
Sure.
realizing nobody's
Thank
going
you.
to travel because of the pricing. People are going to travel just because in case if they need to, and I think price ourselves rightly to the segment is an important call today, rather than just sort of using pricing as the only lever. I think that's sort of I would probably sort of and unfortunately, I think we are in some markets we are seeing this being very, very intelligently used, and I sort of when I kind of look at the UAE hotels, Dubai and the other Emirates hotels are using that fairly sort of effectively. But then there are certain destinations in India when I sort of see the pricing there, I think there seems to be a sort of a race to the bottom there.
So, thank you, Amit. So pricing is the most critical profit lever. So back to Parikshit. Parikshit, I want you to throw some light on this in two elements, right? So how desperation hotels are today in pricing their products, believing that pricing could attract demand, which could be false at the moment, but as Amit says, maybe 6 months from the down the line, it could make much more sense. On the other hand, what happens to your couponing, coupon discounting and other marketing offers that you have been extending for the last past years? Are you still planning to continue that, or what is your take on that? So I wanted to talk about these two elements. Yeah.
No, before I touch upon it, Kumar, I think I'm an eternal optimist. I see the glass to be half full even under these circumstances. Right. So, given whatever demand is available, 15%, 20%, 25%, whatever demand, I think I fundamentally believe there is something that you can do as a revenue manager to try and at least optimize or maximize whatever is available today. Right. So, a couple of things that comes to my mind. I'm not a core hotelier, but speaking to my hotelier friends all across the globe, a couple of things that many hotels are trying to do is, which is traditionally known as bundled pricing, right? So where you would probably have a room rate, but along with that, a few other price, giveaways, where you are not essentially trying to go overboard on discounting. You are trying to kind of, you know that demand is scarce in these times, but whatever demand you have, can you maximize revenue out of that demand? Probably is the attitude that many of the hotels are adopting, and it's a very smart way of doing things. So, for example, if it's a long stay kind of a scenario, while the room rate is less, if the F&B package is lucrative, can you maximize that? So, given whatever demand is available, that might be a strategy going forward. And I completely agree with you, Kumar. It cannot be a race to the bottom as far as pricing is concerned, because what you will do if you are getting into overboard of discounts is you're going to kill the brand on the longer term, right? So we all know that. You don't need an expert to come and tell you that. So that's there. But given whatever you have, what can you do? Obviously some bit of discounting would help at the room level, but can you maximize it by giving other add-ons which you are pricing? For example, a staycation spa package. Can you add in a spa, and then while you get the room rate down as a discount, you add the spa package on top of it and try and maximize it, right? So I think these are some of the tricks which are people like me would try if I see the glass to be half full, even under these circumstances. Coming to a specific point on OTAs, I think gone are those days of discounting. I think all of us have seen even pre pandemic also, right? Last Jan, February, March. If you look at, I don't think there was at all heavy discounting which is going around, because fundamentally demand aggregation had happened, and aggregation had happened, and because demand was aggregated, there was no need to kind of look into those kind of skimming as far as discounting is concerned. I don't think you would see a lot of discounting and couponing coming back. I think fundamentally, as we have seen post the pandemic, it will be even tighter to expect strong couponing and strong discounting. You would see tactical offers. You would see tactical offers for certain set of users. I think users who are loyal to a particular brand, loyal to a particular OTA, a certain set of users who are actually affluent. Those set of users you will try to woo by using smart technologies to kind of target them and give them some lucrative discounts here and there. But gone are those days when you look at a one-size-fit-all discounting strategy across. So I don't see that coming back at all. And I think one of the panelists was also mentioning that how hotels should also look at their core customers who are actually out there in the market, who have stayed with them. Can you go and reach out to them, give them some discounts to kind of lure them, but then try and make it up by packaging the pricing better and make it up through an F&B or a spa package or anything that is associated.
Thank you. Well said, Parikshit. I'm sure all our hotel folks are listening to this very, very carefully. Quickly, I'll go for a quick comment from Ram. Ram, having heard what Parikshit and Amit said, how sensitive is pricing today, and the discounting that is happening, the chase to the bottom. So, what's your comment on that, Ram?
So one is, I totally agree with you on this. In terms of discounting only leads to price war. It's a everlasting cycle of people dropping rates because other person dropped it. It'll be never ending. In my opinion, pricing should be the last part of the decision of
absolutely.
Okay. It's important to first understand what the customer is looking for today, and if what you're offering as a hotel meets their requirements. I mean, like how you see in the markets which have come back from or which are slowly starting to come back, price is not actually the key converting factor out there. Health and safety and flexibility of policies are actually more important to a customer than actually the lowest price. If I'm traveling, I'll actually pose the question back to the panel out here. If you're traveling today with your family for a leisure holiday, are you going to choose the cheapest hotel or the safest hotel out there? I'm sure all of you have your answers in your mind. So prices definitely not be safest and cheapest. That's a smart way. That's the revenue manager's answer, by the way. Yeah. So I think it's important to understand that the price plays a deal when everything is equal. Of course, the customer wants the cheapest price. Okay, when all things are equal, price of course plays a great deal. So I think again, I made this statement before, so it's important to understand the customer who is traveling and maybe curate an offer which is relevant to that particular audience. Parikshit made that statement about spas, etc. Whenever they allow people to open up spas, that would be a great way to add some value to your stay out there. I think this is also the time for you to kind of understand your post-COVID business mix. and decide your pricing. And extremely important to work with your sales and marketing teams, because there could be some short-term closed user group deals that you can do, which doesn't actually drop your price in the public market, but this is happening in a very closed user group out there. Okay, it is. I don't know who made that statement. Maybe Ravish did it, saying that hotels actually look only at their database. I think there is a great opportunity for hotels to work with their partner database. For example, if you had a shopping arcade in your hotel, hey, how about offering a special deal to the users of that shopping arcade out there? Have you thought about it? Or maybe if reaching out to some of your vendors out there and offering a special rates for their customers, reach out, secure their database out there. So I think revenue managers and everybody today in the hotel is a revenue manager, because their job out there is to maximize revenue. So I think they need to start looking outside that box of traditional revenue strategies, at least for the next 6 to 12 months.
Thank you, Ram. So as we covered most of the points, there are some common questions that I have with regards to the new offers, or the hot offer that has been going around, saying that book today and stay within the next 1 year. So hotels are primarily trying to target customers, to help them in the cash flows, right? So we talked about cash flows. Devinder pointed about cash flows. So book today and stay next 1 year is a classic strategy that's been used by hoteliers and even OTAs to bring back guests to the industry. So how well this strategy is working for you? I would like to actually take a comment from each one of you, across all the panelists. A quick 30-minute.
What is the revenue manager's role at this moment of time? Now, I will put it in a different way. So, revenue manager's role needs to be decided by the hotel owner the vice president of the company or the GM of the hotel. And when I say that, you need to have a clear top line strategy. You need to come together, sit in a room and say, what is our objective for the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year? Forget about, we don't know what the demand is or when it's going to come back. So we don't know that. What we know is whatever demand is there, are we willing to go down certain routes to capture that demand for our property? Because please understand that this time is all about survival. Yeah, like the Alibaba CEO turned around and said, this year is all about survival. It's not about ADR, or it's not about that, I'm going to be looking at this ADR and I'm going to be looking at this budgeted occupancy and all that. It's about survival this year. So the first request will be that come together, decide the pricing strategy, decide about, because online channels have become very complicated, and we're going to discuss that in the volume driver section. Online travel agents have become very complicated. There's channels within the channels. Okay, so if you're looking at that now, you know what, I want a threshold of 5,000 and I will not go below 5,000. It actually becomes quite difficult for the revenue manager, because if the revenue manager puts a 5,000 rupee rate, sell rate out on the online channel, do they go ahead and apply mobile discounting to that? Now, if you see, mobile discounting is doing much better as compared to the desktop sites. Okay, so you need to, the GM, the vice president, the hotel owners really need to sit with the revenue manager and understand those channels and look at the price point at every level and agree on those price point. Okay, so content, back to basic. Look at your direct website content. Look at what cleanliness, hygiene, certification you got on your direct website. Look at what extra value add-ons you got on your direct website. Okay, to capture that client. Online travel agents have got a lot of new content put on. Things like what all hygiene practices the hotel is following. So the revenue manager or your e-commerce manager needs to go on to each and every extranet and needs to say yes or no to that, because they will show up in the front end of the online travel agent. There are quite a lot of safety certifications which are coming out. So speak to the revenue manager and see which all safety certification you want to be shown on your listing. Global distribution system. As we know that the global travel or the international travel has not started yet. But then we have seen in some business properties that the domestic business has started on GDS. Okay. In fact, I was looking at this morning only, and I was a bit surprised to look at GDS room nights getting generated. But then again, that's the domestic corporate travel business, which is slowly starting. So you need to look at your global distribution system content and optimize that as per the current demand or current requirements. You need to look at your Google listing and your TripAdvisor listing. Just review the content. Make sure that it's fitting in with the current scenario. Okay. When I talk about content, what I'm talking about is look at the photographs. Don't overdo it, because I came across one of the property where I just went on to booking.com and looked at their photographs. Out of around 40 photographs, they had around 25 photographs which was just related to temperature checks and people wearing masks and people wearing gloves and all those sort of things. So don't overdo it. But yes, give that confidence. So the whole idea is give the confidence to the traveler that you are taking all the measures and you will look after them, and they will be safe when they come to your property. So we come across, so we do a lot of hotel audits, revenue management audits to see if the content is correct or what kind of best practices they are missing and all those sort of things. So we come across that even if there is a 5-star property, their North Star rating. So North Star rating is something which is used for the GDS, as we say the hotel is a 5-star hotel or a 4-star hotel, and we come across that the North Star rating, which is the NPM rating, is marked as NA. Okay. So there are a lot many things which you can look at the content to make sure that your content is correct, and that gives that confidence to the agent to book the potential booker at your property. So sorry. So like I mentioned before, online travel agents, they have quite a lot of COVID-19 protocols. They have safety badges in place. So your revenue manager will know all of this, or should know, let me put it, will know or should know all these things. So you need to literally go and ask your revenue manager to go through all of this and get all of this prepared for when the demand starts coming in. It will be easier for you to capture that demand. Okay, let's come on to the important bit, pricing strategy. So again, I'm going to put a question up, which there are a lot of people out there. And I've been attending a lot of webinars and all of that. And eventually then I stopped attending those webinars, honestly speaking, because one of the questions, should we drop the rate and get into a price war, or should we hold the rate and lose the business to the comsets? It's a very tricky question. And majority of the webinars I attended, they said, let's not get into the price war. Let's hold the price points. There is no point of dropping the rates. You know, the demand is only there. There's certain demand which is there. Why to drop the price point and capture that demand? Now, maybe there will be a lot of people on the webinar at this moment of time who will not agree with me on this. But I have a very simple basics revenue management, that the price point is a derivation of demand and supply. Okay, we know that the demand has fallen down drastically. As a result of it, there is ample supply in the market. Okay, and we're talking about the survival. Okay, so to give you an example, like a 5-star hotel in Mumbai, where we normally in a month like November or a February, we will sell at around 9,500, 10,000 rupees a night. During Diwali, we know that the price point drops down drastically, because that Diwali week, the occupancy in Mumbai drops down to around 35-40%. We know this thing. So the price points are kept low. It's a similar scenario. Okay. Not saying that you drop the price point to a level where your brand perception changes. Okay. So you have to be very, very careful when you're looking at adjusting your price point. So I never use the word dropping the price point. It's about adjusting the price point to the market. Okay. So when we look at the pricing strategy, first of all, your price point depends on demand and supply. So sitting here, I cannot tell you whether you should drop your price point by 10%, 15%, or 20%. It will vary with your markets. It will vary with your hotel location. It will depend on a lot of factors. Okay. So again, your revenue manager comes in, looks at it, and it's not only about dropping the price point and leaving it there. It's the time to test out the price sensitivity in the market. So you have to keep on fluctuating the price point to get that right balance. Okay. So the other thing is, obviously, you need to look at the promotions now. Again, attending the previous session and attending quite a lot of international webinars. So I've been attending from the Australasia, US, Europe. There's quite a lot of webinars which have been happening. And there are a lot of people who are talking about staycation. Okay. Now, it could be that probably I may be wrong on this, but what we've seen is, from my experience working in UK and handling properties in other countries, their culture is very, very different from Indian culture. Okay. they don't have maids working at home, right? Abroad, we do everything on our own. Okay, we broom, we vacuum, we do dusting, we wash dishes, we wash our own car, and all of that. In India, we have the luxury to have maid, we have the luxury to keep a cook, and all those sort of things. So I am not really convinced that much. I may be wrong again. Again, I have not seen that practically, that a staycation package that people in the local city, like I'm sitting here in Delhi and I will say, let me go and stay at AeroCity. Okay, I'm not very convinced about it. There is a very good possibility I'll pick up the car and go to Agra. Okay, it's drivable distance. It will give me a different scene. There is a possibility I'll pick up the car and drive to Shimla if the borders are open. It's hardly any drive. I may drive to Jaipur. That is a good possibility because that will give me a completely different scenery. Okay. Now, again, because of certain restrictions, like I was calling one of our clients, they have a property in Rishikesh. And so I asked them, I said, okay, just for the change of scene, let me just go there and spend 5-6 days and I'll work from there and, and all those sort of things. So he turned around and said, most welcome to go, but then there is a 7-day quarantine. You will not be able to go out anywhere. So I said, forget it. There's no point of driving all the way to Rishikesh and sitting in the property quarantine. Okay. And also at the tolls or one of the government tolls and all, there are long queues. It's like 2 hours long queue, 2 hours long wait where you have to sit there, you have to fill an online form and then they give you a manual pin or something or whatever. So it's really, really difficult. You might as well not travel. Okay. So when we talk about promotions, again, you have to look at, what kind of target audience is there. Like I said, demand is not zero. Okay. Demand is not zero. There's people still traveling. We can still see, around 15-20% occupancies still coming to the hotels. Okay, so you need to really look at that, what kind of people are traveling, really understand who are these people traveling, and then design your promotions according to that. Okay. Then talked about tactical campaigns. Rather than dropping the price point straight away, look at some tactical campaigns. So the customer does not get the impression that you are slashing down your price point. Okay. What you're doing is you're putting a special offer out there, a limited time offer. Buy one, get one free. So buy one night, get the second night free. Now there is a possibility that you'll give, the first night on breakfast and dinner price. So what we call is MAP, and the second night is on EP or a CP. Okay. There is something else what we launched. Obviously, there are system restrictions and we cannot do those. So people who are traveling in families, what we did is that we did buy one room and get the second room complimentary. Okay. So, and obviously when these families are going to come to your property, they're not going to go out anywhere to have dinner or lunch. They just want to go out of their houses. So they will obviously order room service or some kind of look at some kind of entertainment at the property. So to give you another example, so it's actually closed user group campaigns. So to give you an example of a closed user group, what we have just launched for one of our property is that what we noticed is that there is a demand for people coming and staying at the property who have got early morning flight. Okay. Now, if you see with the domestic flights where you have to report an hour prior to the flight time, this is now changed to 2 hours before the flight time, departure time. So imagine, especially someone living in Bangalore where the airport is completely out of the city. Okay. So the hotels which are closer to the city, or even you can look at Ahmedabad or even Mumbai, where it can take up to 45 minutes or an hour. So if somebody's got a 7 a.m. flight, that means they have to be at the airport at 5 a.m. So that means they have to get up at like 3 in the morning, get ready, leave, because it's going to take them an hour and all of that. So obviously when you do that, you will disturb your family members as well. They will be sleeping at that time. So what we did is that we said a closed user group, anyone who's got a flight departure time before 8 a.m., we have given them a very, very special offer. And it's a room only rate, no dinner, no breakfast, and inclusive of airport drop, because it's the hotels which are very close to the airports. And the airport transfer cost is not that high. So this is a closed user group. You're targeting certain target audience. This rate cannot be used by everyone. Yeah. So we put certain conditions out there. Okay. Packages, value-added offers. So everybody is looking at what we call is MAP, AP rates. Okay. There are certain hotels which are going a step ahead and giving some other entertainment things in the packages. My only request is, or what I observed, is that when you're creating a package, and that's the reason why I've used the word value-added offer, is that a customer will only buy that if they see value in that. Okay. Now, at one side, we're looking at giving Vande Bharat price point at around, let's say, even hotels going down to a level of 3,500-4,000 APAI. But then when we're looking at certain value packages, MAP or AP packages, it's going up to like 7,000, 8,000 rupees. Now, that doesn't make sense. So why will a customer buy 7,000, 8,000 rupee MAP or an AP package? Yeah. So we need to really look at and see what is our objective. What are we trying to achieve here? And I'm sure that majority of the people are looking at how I can get bums in beds, what we call people coming to the property, spend some money so that the cash flow of the property starts. Okay. It's all about survival. So relook at your packages and see how you can make it value packages. Not slapping the full price of dinner and lunch and breakfast on top of that and say, I'm going to charge this, and it becomes so expensive that people are not even buying. Okay. So relook at those F&B allocations on there and see. Look at, like I mentioned before, look at your cancellation policy. People are looking for flexible rates. Hotel rooms are going empty anyway, so it doesn't really matter. You're not displacing any business at this moment of time. You're not losing anything at this moment of time by making the cancellation policy flexible. Okay. Look at your room type supplements. Okay. When I say room type supplements, there's obviously the general room type supplements from a base to a base plus one. Some properties look at 500, some properties look at even 1,000. But let's be realistic at this moment of time and see how many rooms do we actually upsell? Okay. Do we really force sell? Out of 365 days, I think there will be hardly 15 or 20 days where there are high demand events used to take place, where we used to force sell higher category rooms. The rest of the days we used to say, oh, just overbook on the base category room and just, upgrade people. So look at those room type supplements. Look at your suite price point, where a suite price point is sitting at 30,000, 35,000, 40,000. If we are looking at the base category room price point coming down, why not relook at your suite room pricing as well and see if we can make it more attractive package out of that? Okay, because people still have money to travel and they want to travel, be it for leisure, be it for business. It's about how you can grab them, how you can convince them to come to your property. Okay, so globally, if you look at leisure travel started first. Like I said, that even when we are looking at certain international properties of ours, we are seeing that weekend occupancies and long weekend occupancies are much higher as compared to midweek, which is right because the culture abroad is different. They believe in short holidays and once in a year, a long holiday. When we look at this moment of time where a lot of people are losing jobs and the market is so unpredictable, we Indians believe on saving the money just in case the time worsens. Okay. Now, so when it comes to leisure market will start first or the corporate market will start first, to be honest, I think both the markets are going to start at the same time. There are people out there who are desperate to go for a holiday. They will go travel to Shimla or Goa or Agra or Jaipur. It will happen. But at the same time, how I see is your medium and small companies. Their businesses have stopped for quite some time, and those are the people who are really struggling at this moment of time. People who are running their own businesses, raw material not coming, or they're unable to source raw material, or they have raw material and the factory is not taking it. Okay, so there is a lot of chains which have broken at this moment of time. So the way I see it, in fact, I have already started seeing it. It's not that we're going to see it. We have already started seeing it, that medium to small enterprises have already started their travel because they are the one who are really suffering at this moment of time. So that should be one area of focus. Global accounts will take time because the global travel decision-making depends on the international travel. There's somebody sitting out there, someone who's going to decide when IBM, Cisco, SAP, all these people, they're going to say, now it's safe. WHO has said, yes, it's safe to travel, and now we're going to travel. So till that time, there is a travel freeze which is out there. But SMEs, they are their own decision makers. It's their own business. So they will start traveling, and we have seen that. So the sales team focus should really be look at these small businesses and see how you can build up that rapport with them, how you can make that connect and start targeting those so that at least your cash flow starts going on. Okay. Look at the channels where they're booking. So SMEs, depending on where they're placed, it really depends where they're placed in India. So we've seen they book through online travel agents. So again, you need to look at that your presence on the online. They are over the phone to grab that market share. Okay. So we talked about volume drivers. Now, your revenue manager will and should know what all volume drivers are out there. So volume driver is not a normal terminology which is used in revenue management. It's something which we use within our company, just to make it simpler, not get confused between a promotion and a volume driver. So you must have already heard about these volume drivers like if you see that the mobile deals are working very well, people are not using desktop sites that much. They're using mobile platforms, so be it iPad or iPhone or mobile apps, because they know that they're getting much better deals on the mobile devices. So that is something which your revenue manager needs to look at. Now, this is something where the hotel owner, GM, and the VP of the company needs to sit together and decide that, are we okay with this? Because what we have seen with the hotels is that there is a certain strategy which everybody agrees on, and then the revenue manager goes and implements the strategy. By the time that strategy goes out and starts yielding results or starts getting results, suddenly somebody wakes up and says, "No, sorry, go ahead and shut down all this." Please give it time to breathe. Let that strategy grow. Okay? Give it some time. Fluctuate the price point, because there is a huge difference between fluctuating the price point and making changes to the promotions. Promotions are not changed on a daily basis. It's the price point which is changed on a daily basis. In fact, even twice, thrice in a day. So whatever strategy you agree on, just let it breathe, let it go. Keep on fluctuating the price point and see what is the ideal price point for your property in this time period. Look at pay at hotels, because if you see, like, there are OTAs out there who only do pay at hotels. Look at your direct website. I come across a lot of hotel websites who have got payment gateways. Half of the time I've seen that the payment gateways fail, and it becomes quite annoying for the potential booker. If you are giving a third party the flexibility of booking and paying at the hotel, why not on your direct website? Switch off the payment gateway for some time. Let the customer enter their credit card details. How does it matter? The hotels are running at 10%, 15%, 20% occupancy. How does it matter if the booking goes as a no-show or gets cancelled at the last minute? When you give more flexibility to the customer, there is a possibility that your conversions will improve. And what we've seen is that for pay at hotel or even no CC required bookings, there is a 65% conversion on the booking, where 65% of the people actually come and stay at the property. So at this moment of time, look at as much as flexibility which you can give. There are other things like members deals on the OTA partners. And I am not just going to talk about give all these deals to OTA partners. You have your direct website as well. If you're giving members those deals, then look at your direct website and look at promo codes which you can put out on social media sites. So don't just keep on giving discounts on one side, because obviously that's going to eat in your profits as well. Look at certain deals for your direct website as well, some exclusive deals for your direct website as well. Okay. Things like early check-in, late checkout. Again, I don't know. There is nothing really to say that how much it's going to help with the conversion, but then that is something which is really, really beneficial for any airport property, because if there is an early morning flight or there is a late evening flight, in fact, not an early morning flight, if there is a late evening flight, how does it matter the hotels are running at 20-25% occupancy? Give it a late checkout at 2 p.m. or 4 p.m. and say, don't worry, we are here to, your flight is at 6, don't worry, you stay in the hotel room till 4 p.m. Not a problem at all, because that's going to help you to retain that customer for future. Briefly mention about no CC required. Again, this is something which some of the OTA partners offer, and by all means, you can do it for your hotel website as well. You might attract some wrong kind of customers, so you have to be careful. But then again, you can try it out and see if it improves your conversion. Because again, trying all these things, looking at what might work for your property, try it out. At this moment of time, it's all about survival. And the list continues. So I've just only listed some of them. If you talk to your revenue manager, there is a long list of volume drivers which you can activate for your property. Just be careful that some of them stack on top of each other. So when I say that they stack on top of each other, meaning if you've given 10% for this, 10% for that, 10% for that, it's going to add it up and make it 30%. So we don't want that, because there is no point of selling a room and getting something which doesn't even cover the cost of the room. Okay, so just be careful, but your revenue manager should or will have the details of all these special deals. And this is what we call channel in channel deals. Okay, so speak to your revenue manager. They will be able to provide you with a list. Sit and have a look at it and agree on the strategy for the next 3 months, 6 months. Okay. Client experience, retention, and referrals. So this is something which is very, very important. Like I said in the beginning, that Joy Ghosh also mentioned about this, about retaining the existing clients is much easier. So what I've seen is that, say, for example, there is a regular guest who's coming at your property and staying and putting a feedback on the OTA website if they book through OTA. I would say ask them to put a feedback on LinkedIn as well, because we know that LinkedIn is a corporate platform. It's not like Facebook. For leisure properties, obviously, Facebook is a much better this thing, that because everybody talks about their holiday photographs, they tag each other and all those sort of things. So for any corporate hotels, I would say, LinkedIn is a very good platform. Ask your guests, how was your stay, and and let them and request them if they can put it on LinkedIn about the hotel cleanliness and hygiene practices which are in place. And I'm sure that it makes a much bigger impact to the potential traveler. They will remember your property name if they're coming to your city. Put some incentive for referrals for your regular clients, so they can start talking about your property. They can start referring your hotel to other people. So put an incentive. Incentive could be anything like, a complimentary upgrade on your next visit, because they are your regular guests. So obviously, complimentary upgrade to a next room category, or complimentary meal, or something like this, which depending on their designation. Okay, so don't offer CEO a complimentary, welcome drink or something. That's not going to be really good for them. Offer them something really which is as per their designation, so they feel valued for referring your hotel. For leisure properties, again, Facebook is a very good platform, and I'll give you an example. Everybody must be knowing Nitin Brijwani. He's with GTA, which is now Hotel Beds and all that. So I keep on looking at his WhatsApp status, and he's got some amazing photographs on his WhatsApp status. So I kept on looking, and then one day I just sent a message to him. I said, "Are these the old ones, or is it you're actually there now?" So he goes, "I'm actually there now." Okay, so I was like, okay, let me know where exactly is this. I'm going to see that once all this starts, I'm going to start traveling. So it does make a lot of impact. So if for leisure properties, if you ask your guests to go ahead and take some hotel photographs and put it on Facebook, or even if you put it and you tag them to those photographs and ask them to share it, that really makes a big impact, because that really gives that live experience what the potential booker will be looking at. So, and that is something, see, at this moment of time, I'm not going to recommend anything where you will end up spending more money. I had actually put a slide about marketing, but then I removed that marketing slide, because at this moment of time, it's about survival and see what all things we can do ourselves. So everybody uses Facebook. I'm sure anyone in the hotel who is really good with using Facebook can do that. We all have to come together and start doing our own hotel marketing rather than, looking at third party. Let's go and look at the third party and, outsource all those things. So yeah, so there are some certain tips from my side. Sorry, it was very, very basic, but this is something which, we can do at this moment of time before the demand kicks in. I am very, very confident. Please don't ask me the timelines, but I'm very, very confident that once the travel restrictions ease out and they are relaxed, you will see a boom in domestic travelers, especially from medium to small industries, enterprises. We will, because they are really struggling for business, and they will go out all in the market to source this for the client meetings and all those sort of things. So I'm very confident with that one, but it's just that we don't know when, and it all depends on the government when. Great, that is me. Thank you very much for your time. I will go on to the questions and answers now. Let's see. Let me go back here. Oops. Hello. Vijayji, are there any questions there?
Hi, Kamal, I'm audible to you?
Yes.
Superb. Okay, so there are a few questions from our audience. So first question from one of the hotel's marketing head. So she's asking, what about your view on the leisure assets, which are fully dependent on the foreign travelers? Do you see any revival in business in the next couple of quarters?
So again, see, international travel again, it's very unpredictable. It all depends on the government as to what they decide to do going forward. There were some articles which were going on that end of July the international travel will start and this will happen, but then nothing. We have not seen anything happening at this moment of time. So it purely depends on the government. So at this moment of time, for leisure properties which are heavily dependent on foreign inbound travel, obviously they have to change their business mix and look at how they can target the domestic traveler, because domestic travel will happen once the travel restrictions ease out. And I think before the international travel is the domestic travel restrictions which are going to ease out. So they need to really have a good strategy in place for how to capture the domestic leisure traveler.
Okay, thanks, Kamal. So there's one question from one of the hotel owners. He's saying that he owns a hotel in a tier 3 city of India, and his asset is largely dependent on the banqueting business. So he has around 80 rooms, but around 30,000 square foot banqueting adjoining with the lawns, and entire business models on their weddings, social events largely. So he said that looking toward the current market situation and the government restriction on the number of packs you can have the event for, what's your advice to him? What changes he can probably made in this given market size and the type of product he already has?
So in a tier 3 city where the hotel has got lawns and big banquet space, I am assuming, and I may be wrong, that it's away from the main city. I may be wrong. Okay, so if it's away from the main city, they have a very good opportunity of capturing the demand from the city. So where we were talking about the staycation, okay, that somebody now, like if I'm staying in Delhi, I would probably not go and stay in a Delhi hotel. Okay, but then if I am staying in a tier 3 city and there is a property which is like a resort property, they can target that and see some kind of a small family get-togethers. Because what we have noticed is, so I'll give you an example of Mysore market. So what we noticed is there are groups of youngsters traveling from Bangalore to Mysore hotels, okay, to have a get-together, because in Bangalore they are not meeting up, but they are traveling to Mysore to have a get-together party. So that is something which this hotel can target in a tier 3 city.
Great. One of the hotel owners have a question. He said that he is into the leisure business, and what he is seeing the trend that rather business coming to them in these difficult times, or whatever the weekend movement of staycation we are talking about. It's going to the more of to Airbnb properties, probably, or to the farmhouses where the families or a couple is saying they're more secure in the property where it's largely occupied by them. So do you think in the long term this trend is going to impact the hotel revenues?
Okay, so I'll tell you certain trends of the global market, okay, as to what exactly is happening. So in US, what is happening is that the economy segment, what we call the economy segment, is doing much better than the upper upscale and the luxury segment, okay. But then in India, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that people still have money and they will not take a risk of going to like because if you look at the difference between a budget and economy property in India versus a budget economy property in US, there is a massive difference, right? Okay,
That's right.
A much more cleaner, hygienic. But then in India, if you even want to book a 2-star property or a 3-star, you're a bit reluctant to book a 3-star property as well because the star category, the classification is just, I don't know on what basis it's done, right?
Yeah.
So I don't see that happening to that level. However, saying that for this property, what I would recommend them is that they need to look at they need to compare their product versus the product where the business is going, and they need to look at the offerings, okay, and see that if they can customize their offering to capture that demand. Because sometimes what happens is that you never know. It's like to give you an example, in Lonavala there is like bungalows there, okay, and people are like going taking those bungalows rather than going and staying at the hotel because they get the privacy, okay. So maybe this hotel can look at the offerings of the other property and say, let me just customize something here, okay, and give them a similar kind of offering. Yeah.
Super. Great. So one more question. Actually, this question is from one of the, I will say, national head of one international chain.
Mm-hmm.
He's of opinion that, and he wants your opinion on this, that in India, 15% of the market is actually with the organized players. Which is around 160,000 rooms, room inventory total we have in the country, and the majority of the market is with the unorganized player. Now, let's assume even if the demand drops from the, let's say, 65% national occupancy, moves down to, let's say, 30% or 35%, still that demand probably comes to the organized sector first, because the health and hygiene is one of the biggest factor among the someone who's gone and booked your room online. Mm-hmm. He's asking that, what's your opinion on that? Do you also feel the same way? Though we don't have a statistics to prove it, but do you think that your feel is also the similar?
I was a bit surprised when I had a discussion with quite a few key players in the market just to understand whatever demand is coming, where exactly that demand is going. Okay, because obviously there are certain properties which we work with, and they're like 5-star properties, 4-star properties, 3-star properties. But then I wanted to understand key tier 1 cities or tier 2 cities, business traveler, where exactly the demand is going. I was surprised to know that it's actually going in the budget segment at this moment of time, which is the unstructured budget segment. Okay, so. But that is the demand which has been forced to travel at this moment of time. That is not the actual demand, right? That's the demand which has been forced to travel by their bosses, and they're like not the right demand at this moment of time. But then, I would say it all really depends on. Like I mentioned about the very first demand which I forecast is going to start moving is the small to medium enterprises. Okay, the structured market, the international brands, they are much more stronger in capturing the global accounts. Okay,
sure.
Their focus is much more on the bigger accounts, right? We are talking about really small tier 2, tier 3 cities, corporate travelers. To give you an example, a person sitting in Surat, okay? A person sitting in Amritsar or Jalandhar. Okay, that's the SMEs I'm talking about, which is going to be the initial demand. If the international structured hotel sales team is able to reach there and offer them a better price point, yes, they will be able to capture the demand. Yeah. But then they have to, with international, they have to still abide by certain international hotel policies, whereas the standalone brands, they're flexible. They can do whatever they want to do, right? So I think that's not going to be the case, that the international hotels will get the demand first and then the unstructured. I think unstructured are, if they play the right way and if the sales team are really proactive and attack those SMEs, I think the standalone brands can actually do much better.
Okay, so his question was not specific to international. He meant organized sector. The diverse, domestic, regional, national, or international perspective.
That is there. Yeah. No, that is there. So if you look at the organized segment, yes, because obviously the traveler is going to get much more confidence when it comes to cleanliness and hygiene. Yes. So that way is going to be there. Yeah.
Great, super. So another question is there from one of the hotel owners. He's asking when it comes to the markets like Mumbai or Delhi, okay, or to across the country, even in the leisure segment, the majority of the demand across the country is of domestic travelers. Okay, it's 87% market is dominated by the domestic traveler. So do you think even for next 2 years, let's say the international travel is on an impact side or not much is going to come for various reasons? It can be just a perception, nothing more than that for international traveler. But if the government plays right and if everything goes well and the trade bodies, everyone come together, the revival will be within next 6 to 9 months?
Again, quite difficult to predict that at this moment of time. There are a lot of people who have lost their jobs. Okay, so there people who have lost their jobs, their first priority will be obviously to find a job to get back onto survival. But then saying that there are still a lot of people out there who are really desperate to travel. So domestic business will come back obviously way before than the international travel. The numbers will not be as high as what they used to be at this moment of time. We know that because whatever it is. So, but then I don't think it's gonna fill the gap which is being caused by the where the inbound travel is not coming in. I don't think it's gonna cover that gap of the inbound travel. It's still gonna be low.
So great. Thanks a lot, Kamal. There are quite a few more questions, but you have already covered in your presentation and you explained it beautifully well. And I'm sure all the hotel owners, revenue management experts, and the industry professional GMs have taken great insights from this masterclass. And looking forward for many more such sessions with you in near future, and looking for a great relationship with you in long run as well. Thanks, Kamal. Thank you very much, and thank you to all our audience. Thank you, Kamal. Thanks a lot for all our audience to being with us today, and I'm sure you must have enjoyed all these sessions with us today. And one more thing, we have come up with a special handbook on revenue management, which has been drafted by our research team after doing a couple of surveys on the different aspects of this particular subject. And we're going to email you all that report. So it's going to be on our social handles. You can download that report as well. And we will look forward for your feedback. Thanks a lot and have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Great. Thank you.
Very much for spending your precious evening over here with us.